a hopelessly good-natured person, popular among little children, and a well-known figure. Those who know the culprit of the case I'm about to talk about describe him that way. The brutality of the murder he committed was completely different from the image his acquaintances had of him. It was a case that people naturally said deserved the death penalty, but behind its details was a weakness of the heart that everyone, to some extent, probably has. Tochigi brothers kidnapping and murder case, September 11, 2004, Oyama City, Tochigi Prefecture. Kazuto Kobayashi, age 4, and his 3-year-old brother Hayato went missing. On September 13, 2 days later, police questioning revealed that 39-year-old Akihiro Shimoyama, who lived with them, was involved with minors. He was arrested on kidnapping suspicion, and the investigation continued based on his statement after the children disappeared. 5 days later, in the Omoi River, the body of the younger brother, Hayato, was found. Then, 2 days after that, the body of the older brother, Kazuto, was also discovered in the same river. After that, the police investigation began, and in this case, the father of the victims received more criticism than the perpetrator. This unusual situation attracted much attention. First, let's look into the details of this case. The perpetrator is Taku Shimoyama, and the victims are involved. It all started when the Kobayashi family moved in. The common point between these two families is that they were both immortal families, and in the Shimoyama family, at that time there were 3 people living there: a daughter in 6th grade and a son in 1st grade. And then Kobayashi brothers, their father, and the Shimoyama family, 6 people in total, began their strange life together. This communal life took place in a single apartment with 3 6-tatami mat rooms. It's not a spacious layout for 2 families to live in. Why did they choose to live like this? The 2 families lived together due to Shimoyama and Kobayashi's pasts. The 2 of them, once senior and junior members of a biker gang, came to the house together, bringing their young children. Things weren't going well at work, and he had nowhere else to go. Kobayashi said that Shimoyama told him that. Shimoyama's side says there are discrepancies in this story. He said that Shimoyama would complain to others, saying things like, "Just because I'm his junior, he suddenly barged in." The strict senior-junior hierarchy from their biker gang days remained in their shared life as well. Shimoyama had no choice but to turn a blind eye to Kobayashi's outrageous behavior, and gradually, his mental state became more and more cornered. Shimoyama's daughter once discussed the situation with a neighbor. Meanwhile, the Kobayashi brothers acted as they pleased in the room. Even though Dad was using a broken fan, those men were using the air conditioner from morning till night and didn't even pay for it. They occupied the sunniest room and didn't pay rent or utilities. I wanted them to leave but couldn't say so. In this kind of situation, the frustration that should have been directed at Kobayashi himself ended up being directed at his powerless children. Kobayashi moved into the Shimoyama family around the end of June 2004, and about a week later, on July 8th, Kobayashi's sons went to a nearby convenience store. The 2 of them came to the register with snacks and juice, but they didn't have any money. The store manager was suspicious, seeing 2 children alone, noticing facial injuries, swollen foreheads, and bruises on their bodies. When he offered water, they drank it immediately. Seeing signs of abuse, the store manager called police. The Child Consultation Center took both children into protective custody. The next day, I found out Shimoyama had abused the 2 children. Kobayashi chose not to go back to the Shimoyama home. They took the 2 children back on the condition that they would return to their family home. However, that promise was only kept for a short time. They stayed at their family home, but by August, they returned to live with the Shimoyama family. And then, about a month later, the worst incident occurred. On the day of the incident, there was a Nagashi Somen event being held at a nearby church. Shimoyama went there with his own child and the Kobayashi brothers. Hayashi's younger brother and Kobayashi's older brother went to the playground together. Super Rick Serpa. After returning from the mountain church, he took his child and another person in the car and went to the video rental store. Afterward, they stopped at a gas station, where Kobayashi's younger brother began making a fuss. When Shimoyama scolded him, the boy glared and defiantly said, "You're noisy, old man!" making Shimoyama so angry he lost his composure. Then, he dragged the two of them into the restroom and beat them severely. As a result, it was obvious at a glance that the two had been abused. Seeing their condition, Shimoyama came to his senses and thought, if my senior finds out about this, I'll be beaten half to death. My own children might also be put in danger. That's why he absolutely had to hide it and not let anyone find out. With that in mind, he decided to kill the brothers. Shimoyama thought about it while driving his car. Where should he get rid of them? He then recalled a place he'd visited for work. That was his thought. If it was the Omoi River, the water was deep and the current was fast. With their small bodies, the two of them would be swept away quickly. They would be caught on the bridge just like that. He threw the two of them into the river through the gap in the safety wire. I could hear the splash of water from the river 5 meters below, and he threw the other person down without hesitation as well. However, this crime was soon discovered. 2 days later, Shimoyama was still a minor. He was arrested on suspicion of kidnapping, and Shimoyama's urine tested positive for stimulants. After Shimoyama's arrest and his younger brother's body was found, their father held a press conference, which caused a major stir because Kobayashi's love for his two children could not be felt. At the press conference, the older brother still hadn't been found. Even so, Kobayashi said he wanted them to wait for him in heaven. He made a statement assuming they were already dead, saying he would live happily for the both of them. If you're a parent, no matter the situation, no matter how slim the chances, you want to cling to even the slightest possibility that your child is alive. Isn't that how most people would feel? About 20 days later, a shocking truth emerged. Amazingly, Kobayashi was also arrested for violating the stimulants control law. About 2 years before this, Kobayashi got divorced. The reason for the divorce was that his ex-wife left home, but there was a reason for that. That reason was that ever since his younger brother Hayato-chan was born, their father, Kobayashi, started taking days off work, depending on his mood. The family's finances became strained, and she grew weary of that life. Their mother gave up and left home. The brothers, who suddenly lost their mother, were seen crying out, "Mama, Mama!" and running around searching for her, calling out as they went. The older brother, about 3 years old, put his younger brother in a stroller and looked for their mother. Even such a small child cares for someone more vulnerable than himself. Despite their feelings, what were the surrounding adults doing? As bereaved family, they should have received sympathy. Kobayashi set the incident in motion and faced even harsher public criticism than the perpetrator. Shimoyama spoke about the reason for his crime after being arrested. He thought that his and his children's lives were ruined because of the Kobayashi family. There was no wavering in his intent to kill. Later, yet another shocking fact came to light. That was the fact that Kobayashi had been messing with Shimoyama's daughter. No matter what the reason, there's never a justification for committing murder. But perhaps he also had a side to him that was a victim. Shimoyama's children also suddenly had to live with an unfamiliar man and his kids, so they likely felt uneasy and even afraid at times. The selfish actions of the adults ended up causing all the consequences to fall on the children. About a year later, in 2000, a child who doesn't know about themselves? A child who doesn't know about themselves? This child is not yet there. This child has reached this position. The other has not. This Zuimu. It's difficult to claim there are circumstances justifying the prototype with assets, so the ultimate penalty is inevitable. Shimoyama quickly appealed the verdict, dissatisfied with it, and awaited the first trial after the appeal. On June 4, 2006, Shimoyama died from complications of a cold about 1 year and 9 months after his arrest. He passed away without atoning for his crimes. He loved his own child, but for that reason, he harmed someone else's child. This might be a bit of a different topic, but what if your own child was being bullied? How would you respond to the child who was bullying them? What if your child was the bully? As in this case, where someone got hurt. I sincerely pray for the souls of Katsuto Kobayashi and Hayato. Well then, that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching.